Okay, guys, so to start today, you should have done this, Computer Vocab Part 2. You would have seen the Google Doc that you needed and the picture. So just kind of like yesterday, you'll fill out the Google Doc based on what you say in the picture. After you finish it, go on and submit it back to Google Classroom for credit, and then you'll move here to Unit 1, Part A, open up the note guides, and then get ready to take some notes. So earlier we have learned just some really basic things about computers, right? What are the different parts, mouse, monitor, different things like that. We've also learned some proper typing technique, but now we're really going to dive into Unit 1, which covers what it means to be digitally literate and other computer information that you need to know. So what does it mean to be digitally literate? This is going to be the ability to effectively navigate, evaluate, and create information using a range of digital technologies. And so that's just a lot of words to say that you are good at using different forms of technology. Digitally literate can mean you know how to use a computer, your phone, your iPad, or a gaming system. So digitally literate is just knowing how to navigate different types of technology and to do it well. So super basic here. Let's go with the definition of what even is a computer. Okay, and so the straight up definition is that it's going to be an electronic device that you can use to manipulate, store, retrieve, and process data. And so data goes through an information processing cycle when it's inside of a computer, and data starts as input, and then it's processed, and then it becomes output, and then it becomes stored. And so we're going to actually break that down as we go along through here. And so when we're looking at an actual computer, you're going to have different pieces that could be considered hardware, and hardware is going to be anything that you can actually touch. I can actually touch a mouse, I can actually touch a keyboard, the monitor, speakers, if you have like the ones that sit outside of your computer. Those are all hardware. If I can touch it, it's hardware. Which would mean, think about it, software would probably be what? The opposite, right? So hardware I can touch, software I can't. This is going to be everything that's inside of the computer. It's going to be the instructions that actually tell a computer what to do. So inside of the computer, you have a software, and that's how the computer knows what it wants you to do. And so data that is entered into the computer is considered input. So that's kind of what we were talking about a couple of days ago. When I plug a mouse into a computer, making it input, you're telling the computer information to start. So data is being entered into the computer when you plug in the mouse. And some examples of input devices would be your keyboard, your mouse, and a webcam. Now, webcam, think about the ones that sit outside of a computer, right? Those are the ones you have to plug in, but kind of the same thing with the ones that are built in as well, right? So anything that you can plug in and it tells the computer to do something is input. And so remember, look at that little graphic again. You've got input. Now we're moving on to processed. And processing is defined as manipulating or changing data. And this can look different. So this could be as simple as you're bolding something in Word or Google Docs, italicized, underline, double space. That's manipulating and changing something. Another example would be that you enter formulas and calculate totals in a spreadsheet. And so a spreadsheet would be like an Excel file, and we haven't gotten there yet. But manipulating or changing data means that it's being processed. Or editing a picture at the very bottom there. Editing a picture means that you're changing it. And so the result of data being processed is called output. So, right, we've told it to do something, and now something is coming out of it. You can kind of see that there in the picture. Think about output almost like that. Something's coming out of the computer. And some different forms of an output would be your monitor, your speakers, printer, and headphones, right? So you're plugging something in, but something's coming out of it. Like You have a picture up there, but that's technically coming out at you because data's inside of it and you can see the result. Speakers work the same way. You're hearing music, so it's coming out of the computer. The printer, something's coming out of it. So think about output as anything that comes out of the computer. And then you have different types of storage, right? So we just went through the cycle, input, processing, output. Now we're at storage. And so this is simple. It's where you put data when you don't need it. So think about just like your clothes. You store them in the closet and you pull it out when you're ready for it, right? So that's the same thing as storage with data. So examples of storage could be a floppy disk, almost obsolete. Obsolete means not used. A floppy disk was the very first form of a USB or a flash drive, and a hard drive sits outside of the computer, okay? So it's internal and external, meaning that you can have one inside the computer, but you can also have one outside of it. So your computer comes with a hard drive that's already built inside of it for storage, but let's say you filled it up, you can always buy another hard drive that would sit outside of the computer. CDs and DVDs can be used for storage. Think about it almost like a movie. It's got to be stored somewhere, and so you've got to put it on a DVD. And then you can have a flash drive. And so that up in the corner is an example of the floppy disk. There's your hard drive, right? So the one at the bottom in the left, that's your internal one, and an external one looks like the one on the right. And then you have your CDs. And then flash drive. Flash drive can also be called a USB, and that's probably what that's probably what's most normal to you is the flash drive. And again, we're just going to revisit this information processing cycle. Think about it this way. If I'm repeating myself, you should probably know it, especially know it in this order. We start with input, so data is entered into the computer. The data is then processed or manipulated, which is also processed. Then the information is presented, right? So it comes out. So it's either presented on the screen or in music form or in hard copy form from the printer, but the information comes out. And if we need to keep it, then the information is stored. And so then you have these things called peripheral devices, okay? And peripheral devices are non-essential pieces of hardware, so hardware meaning I can touch them, that you can plug into the computer. And these are going to be non-essential, which means that I can use my computer whether I have them or not, okay? So I don't have to have a printer to make the computer work. So that is called a peripheral device because they attach to the computer from the outside and you don't have to have them. Okay, so that's the end of the note guide. Go back through if you've missed something. When you are done with the note guide, you will upload to Google Classroom.